Hi friends, welcome to English Study Point. Today in this video lecture, I am going to discuss Andrew Marvell's To His Coy Mistress. Andrew Marvell was a 17th century English poet, politician and metaphysical writer. So Marvell lived in the 17th century and excelled in various roles, notably as a poet and politician, intertwining philosophical ideas in his works. Known for his eloquent verse and wit. So he gained recognition for his skillful and articulate poetry, often infused with clever humor and insightful commentary. He is celebrated for several significant works, including the lyric poem To His Coy Mistress, which explores themes of love and time. So this means that Marvell is renowned for important literary pieces, particularly this famous lyric poem that focuses on persuasive romantic themes. And in several types of his poem, which he used to write during his time. So in those particular poem, he delves into the complexities of romantic love and the relentless passage of time, encouraging contemplation of morality. And the garden that reflects on nature and solitude. So another notable work is titled as The Garden, which contemplates the beauty of the natural world and the peacefulness found in solitude. Now here we see other notable pieces include an Horatian ode upon Cromwell's return from Ireland, which is a political ode recognizing Oliver Cromwell's role, and the satirical poem The Character of Holland. So Marvell wrote additional significant poems. So such are a kind of additional significant poems which Marvell used to write, and such as this particular ode which celebrates Oliver Cromwell's political achievements during post-war in Ireland. And this work acknowledges Cromwell's impactful leadership, highlighting Marvell's engagement with contemporary political sentiments. And next is a type of satirical poem. So this particular poem provides critical commentary on Holland, showcasing his ability to weave humor and politics. Marvell's writings blend personal reflection with commentary on the political and social issues of his time. So his body of work uniquely combines introspective thoughts with acute observations about the political climate and societal matters of the 17th century, showcasing his mastery of poetic form and language. So Marvell's ability to skillfully manipulate poetic structures and language emphasizes his talent and creative prowess in poetry. So this is his introduction. From here onwards, I am beginning with actual lines of this poetry. Had we but world enough and time. So the speaker expresses a desire for limitless time and space to pursue love freely, addressing the immense potential of a deep relationship. This coyness, lady, were no crime. So coyness or shyness and reluctance would be acceptable without the constraints of time. It sets up the argument that time pressures distort love. We would sit down and think which way to walk and pass our long love's day. So the speaker envisions a leisurely, thoughtful courtship. Time would allow them to savor each moment in their love. Thou by the Indian Ganges side shouldest rubies find, I by the tide of Humber would complain. So the speaker contrasts exotic beauty with local scenery, suggesting that their love could flourish in different landscapes, enhancing the universality of their connection. I would love you 10 years before the flood. So this refers to the biblical flood, signifying a long-lasting devotion even before significant events in history. And you should, if you please, refuse till the conversion of the Jews. So the speaker here exaggerates the idea of waiting for a very long time for the woman's affection, emphasizing her power in the relationship while highlighting the absurdity of waiting indefinitely. My vegetable love should grow faster than empires and more slow. So, vegetable love suggests a natural organic growth. This love is vast and enduring but slow, emphasizing patience and longevity. And 100 years should go to praise thine eyes and on thy forehead gaze. So, the speaker romanticizes the idea of taking centuries to appreciate each aspect of his lover's beauty, showing deep admiration. 200 to adore each breast. So continues the hyperbolic theme, reflecting an intense desire and reverence for her physical form, but 30,000 to the rest. So, this line suggests that there is so much more to love than physical beauty and devotion. It implies that true love encompasses a lifetime of exploration and appreciation, and age at least to every part. So, the speaker emphasizes the idea of taking an entire lifespan to appreciate all parts of the beloved, further deepening the theme of timeless love. And the last stage should show your heart. Finally, the speaker concludes that even at the end of life, the ultimate understanding of his lover's heart and soul would require additional time, reinforcing the idea that love is an endless journey of exploration. Now, from here onwards, for lady, you deserve this state. So, the speaker affirms that the lady deserves a higher and special kind of love, reinforcing her worth and the seriousness of his feelings. Nor would I love at lower rate. So, he insists that he cannot love her less than she deserves, setting up a contrast between ideal love and the constraints of reality. But at my back, I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near. So, the metaphor of a winged chariot conveys the idea that time is swift and relentless, pushing the speaker to act quickly before it's too late. And yonder, all before us lie deserts of vast eternity. So, this imagery of deserts represents the emptiness and endlessness of time after death, highlighting the stark reality of mortality. Thy beauty shall no more be found. So the speaker warns that her beauty is fleeting and will not last forever, emphasizing the urgency of seizing the moment. Nor in thy marble vault shall sound my echoing song, referring to death. The marble vault, likely a grave, he suggests that once she is gone, his expressions of love will have no one to hear them. Then worms shall try that long preserved virginity. So, this stark image depicts decay and the inevitability of death, where even her purity will be subject to time and nature's processes. And your quaint honor turned to dust. So, the speaker reflects on how societal ideals of honor will ultimately fade away, pointing to the futility of clinging to fleeting values in life. And into ashes all my lusts. So, his passionate desires will also disintegrate with death, underscoring a physical and emotional finality inherent in mortality. The graves a fine and private place. So the speaker acknowledges that while death might be a peaceful resting place, it is not a venue for love or intimacy. But none, I think, do their embrace. So he concludes that in the grave, love and physical connection are absent. This serves to intensify the urgency to engage in love while alive. Now, therefore, while the youthful hue sits on thy skin like morning dew. So the speaker pleads for action while her beauty still flourishes, using the metaphor of morning dew to capture freshness and transience, and while thy willing soul transpires at every pore with instant fires. So he emphasizes her vitality and desire, noting that she is eager and alive with passion, highlighting a connection between physical beauty and spiritual desire. Now, let us spot us while we may. So, an invitation to enjoy love and intimacy, now stressing the importance of taking advantage of the present, and now, like amorous birds of prey. So, the comparison to amorous birds of prey introduces a sense of urgency and ferocity to their passion, suggesting that love should be pursued aggressively, rather at once our time devour than languish in his slow chapped power. So he advocates for seizing the moment rather than waiting helplessly for time to pass slowly and diminish their chances for love. So, Marvel here continues to weave themes of love, time, and mortality throughout this section, reinforces the argument for passionate indulgence in the present moment as a counter to the inevitable approach of death. The tone moves from admiration to urgency, ultimately encouraging the beloved to embrace life and love while they still can. Now, here at last, let us roll all our strength and all. So, the speaker invites the beloved to combine their emotional and physical energies, symbolizing unity in their love, our sweetness up into one ball. So, the term sweetness suggests the tenderness and affection in their relationship, implying that they can merge their joys and pleasures harmoniously and tear our pleasures with rough strife. So, this phrase introduces a contrast, indicating that attaining pleasure and happiness is often accompanied by struggle or conflict. Rough strife captures the challenges in life and love through the iron gates of life. So, the iron gate symbolizes formidable obstacles or barriers in life. The imagery implies that love and pleasures require determination to overcome societal or personal challenges. Thus, though we cannot make our sun. So, the speaker acknowledges the limitations of human power, recognizing that they cannot control time or stop the inevitable progression of life represented by the sun. Stand still, yet we will make him run. So, despite their inability to halt time, the speaker asserts that they will strive to make the most of their time together. Make him run signifies a desire to accelerate their experiences and pleasures, emphasizing the urgency to enjoy life to the fullest. So, this passage reflects a powerful plea to embrace the fleeting nature of time and love. The speaker calls for unity and determination to pursue joy and pleasure even in the face of life's difficulties. The blend of urgency and optimism underlines a passionate commitment to live fully in the present, highlighting the human spirit's resilience against mortality. Then, with this video lecture ends here.